Hello guys, this is Brian Mounts. I run turfmechanic.com in this channel, and today I want to talk to you about grub control. Not grub killing, that's later in the year. Grub control, this is when we prevent the grubs. If you could boil down preventing grubs to one sentence, you would say apply grub control or grub preventer in the month of June. That's pretty much the easiest way to express the whole thing. But there's so much more to this concept that almost nobody fully understands. I mean, you could go and talk to a whole bunch of botanists and chemists out there, and they could talk about this stuff for a long time. I want to go into detail for the lawn care community, but I don't want to go and talk to the biologists and chemists out there because they are far more knowledgeable than I am. The thing is, yes, the month of June is when we apply stuff to prevent grubs, but depending on where you live, what kinds of bugs you have in your lawn, what the weather is like, and what active ingredient you're applying to the lawn, the timing actually makes quite a bit of a difference. Let's go into some of the details, more of the details than you get just about anywhere else. All right, so to start off here, I want to say that I've been applying Scotts GrubEx to my lawn for about 3 years in a row now. I can't remember if I applied it 4 years ago or not. The reason for that is a while back, I ended up having some good solid patches of grub damage in my lawn, like full-on dead spots because all of the root systems of the grass had been eaten away. At that point, I decided, I should probably get on top of this if I want to have a decent looking lawn. In case you really don't know too much about grubs at all, the beetles that we see in the middle of the spring, kind of in April and the May and the early June time frame, all across the country, beetles come out. Those beetles were living underground. Last year, they were grubs. They grow just like anything grows over time, and the grubs pupate. They basically go into like a little cocoon, kind of like a caterpillar goes into a cocoon to turn into a butterfly. The grub larvae, or the grubs, pupate, and then they eventually turn into adult beetles that we see running around in the month, in the middle of the spring. During the spring, the beetles feed on above ground vegetation, and the females eventually will lay eggs, of course, after mating. So just like anything in life, what are the men good for other than mating? The females, after mating, will go and bury themselves down in the ground, usually in the month of June or early July, and they will lay eggs. Now, almost all grub species or beetle species act about the same way. They're all very, very similar. Similar enough that we can all lump them all together generally into one pest category. Now, once these female beetles go underground at the very beginning of summer and they lay their eggs, it takes about 2 weeks for these eggs to start hatching, and the hatched larva that comes out is the earliest form of grubs. Now, we call them larvae because they're not quite grubs. They're so tiny at this point. But because they're tiny, that's why we're applying grub control at this point in time, because it's the easiest time of the year to kill these things. We're essentially killing grub larvae when we put down grub preventers in the end of spring and the beginning parts of summer. Now, again, botanists out there are going to be able to sit there and look at all of these different kinds of lawn grubs and identify what species there are. Now, I am not smart enough to sit there and look at 2 different grubs and tell you this one is a chafer and this one is a Japanese beetle. I'm not that smart. Other people are. But I do know that almost all of the grubs, regardless of the species, start mating in the middle of June. Now, let's just put a number on there, for example. Let's say they start mating on June, today's the 11th, June 11th. As of today, they're mating. Those female beetles are going to go down probably within the next 7 days, probably in the next couple days. So let's say June 15th, they burrow underground and they drop some eggs down there. 2 weeks later is when the first of those eggs start emerging, which is going to be the very, very last days of June or the first days of July. Virtually every beetle is like that. Now, obviously there are some deviations. A few of the kinds of beetles out there are going to do this process slightly earlier in the year, and some are going to do it slightly later in the year. The garden beetle, or the Asiatic garden beetle, I think it is a couple weeks later than, say, for instance, the Japanese beetle or the European chafer. Again, I can't identify the larva or the beetle, when they're sitting next to each other. But this is a well-known fact that certain ones are a little bit behind the curve. For the most part, it doesn't matter. In our lawns, we want to put down product on the lawn to kill off the larvae of these things when they are emerging from the eggs. And when it comes to the product that we decide to put down on the lawn, it's the active ingredient that matters more than just about anything, because they're very different. You can get bags of like grub killer and grub preventer and grub control left and right. They're all over the place. But what is not obvious is the active ingredient. Now, it's on the label of every single bag, but most people don't know anything about the active ingredients. So I want to talk to you a little bit about that right now. Now, like I said, I've been using Scotts GrubEx. Now, I actually purchased this product, I don't know, about a month, maybe 6 weeks ago. I bought it because I have applied this to my lawn for the past few years, and I was planning on doing it this year as well. The reason for that is the active ingredient in this. The active ingredient in this, I have notes here because I can't remember these words. The active ingredient is not imidacloprid. It's not that. It's not thiamethoxam, I don't know how to pronounce it. And it's also not clothinidin. Clothinidin? That doesn't even sound like a real word. It's not any of those active ingredients. Those three active ingredients, and I'll put them on the screen, maybe I already have, those three active ingredients are chemical insecticides. They're going to kill the larvae of grubs and some of the smaller grubs, but they're also going to kill a lot of other beneficial soil biology. We're going to be harming bees. We're going to be harming worms. We're going to be harming the little beneficial insects that we want in our lawn. Remember, we feed the soil around here and we fertilize the grass, but quite honestly, if we take care of the soil, then the grass takes care of itself for the most part. I don't want to kill all of that stuff off. This product kills that stuff off less than those other three. Now, those other three active ingredients are actually better. Those other three active ingredients are actually better at killing off grubs. So let's see here. The three, imidacloprid, that's the one that I can actually say, thiamethoxam, and the cloth one. These things can be, under ideal situations, they can be applied at the end of June, 1st of July, and they're going to kill somewhere around like 75 to 100%. I mean, let's just average it out to 85% of all grubs. So any product that contains those is really going to like knock grubs in the face. An example product that contains imidacloprid, which I'm not going to purchase myself, and I'll get to that in a minute, is bio-advanced grub control. Now, there are others out there as well. An example of the thiamethoxam is the Meridian product. Again, it's a product that I don't own and I won't be purchasing, and I'll tell you why in a minute. I kind of already have already. It kills too many things. The clothinidin, that product is found in Arena, and all of these products, they will kill the grubs just fine. They're very water soluble, so you can apply them at the end of June, 1st of July, and water them in, and they're just going to suck right down into the soil level within those first couple inches, right where those grub larvae exist, and they're going to kill them right when they emerge. The little grubs will open up out of their eggs, and they start nibbling on grass roots and the insecticide, and then they just die. I don't like that, because it's going to harm too many other things. The GrubEx has the active ingredient chlorantraniliprole. It's the one that starts with a C. That's what I think of it. When I look at the label, if it's got the C, that's the one. That product is far less harmful on all of the soil biology and certainly less harmful on the bees. Now here I am sitting amongst my garden before I actually get it in the garden. We have a very late last frost date around here. We are avid gardeners. I value the bees and the other pollinators enormously, and I think we all should. So this product is safer for them, but it's safer for all of the other soil biology in my lawn. But I have changed my mind. I even published a video on this channel not that long ago saying that I was planning on applying this product to my lawn on June 2nd. Now the reason that I put it down on early June, early to mid-June, hello kitty cat. The reason I put it down in early to mid-June as opposed to late June is because this active ingredient is less water soluble. It's less mobile in the lawn. So as you put it down and water it in, it's not going to travel. This guy. It's not going to travel through the soil like the other active ingredients are. And it's also not exactly going to degrade over time quite the same way as well. This product can actually be put down a lot earlier. You could put it down all the way in April and it'll still have some effectiveness come July. Now, to me, that still seems quite extreme since the vast majority of grub larvae aren't going to be entering the lawn system until somewhere around the 1st of July. I gotta move this cat. Oh my gosh. In any event, if you put this thing down at the end of May or all the way up through about mid to late June, it's going to act on the grub larva effectively all through the month of July and into August. And because it's less water soluble, less mobile, it's not going to leach out of the lawn quite as fast. So its effectiveness is going to last, but you do sacrifice a little bit by getting this over the other 3 chemical insecticides. It's not quite as effective. It's still pretty effective, but it's not quite as effective. The other 3, we pegged it on average of about 85% kill rate for grub larvae. This one's going to be on average around 70% if you're applying it under ideal circumstances. Let's say you're applying it on Memorial Day or all the way up to June 15th. Somewhere in there, you're probably going to get about a 70% kill rate if you water it in. Again, if you water it in isn't quite as important as the other products, but you still should water it in. Now, another negative of using this style product is that if you put it down too late, let's say for instance July 4th rolls around, or maybe even later than that, and you haven't put down grub control, if you put this product down, it might actually be too late because it's going to take a little bit longer than you'd like for it to really seep down into the soil and start acting on the grub larvae. At that point, it's possible that the earliest grub larvae are going to mature enough to not be killed by this product. So you can't really put this product down, even though the label says you can through July. I wouldn't recommend you put this product down after, I don't know, a few days after July 4th, I don't know, maybe July 10th. Personally, I wouldn't put it down after probably July 4th. So anyway, like I was saying, I was gonna put this thing down about a week ago, but I decided I needed to be more consistent in my lawn and here on this channel. Now, I err on the side of organics and natural products as much as I possibly can. I'm not a purist. I still put down a weed preventer, which is a chemical, weed stopping barrier product. I still put down synthetic fertilizer on a couple patches of my lawn earlier this spring, but organics and natural products to me make more sense if I can do it. And why can't I do it? I have 13 chickens that run around this property when I let them out. Right now I'm not letting them out because our garden is not protected. I have a couple dogs, I have 4 cats, I have 4 children that run around dropping things on this grass, rolling around. I want my lawn to be safe for the family. So I've decided to go look into the organic space. Now, there are 2 very common organic products, or I should say natural products that are used to control grubs. 1, you've got milky spore, and 2, you've got beneficial nematodes. So let's talk about those 2 first. Beneficial nematodes are I mean, there are beneficial and there are not beneficial ones. The beneficial ones are basically, I mean, they're all basically little microscopic worms. They kind of act like leeches. So the beneficial ones, we call them beneficial because they do what we want them to do. You have to take like this powdered form. I don't know if they're freeze dried. I don't know how exactly they're processed, but you kind of mix it into a solution, and then you have to have like a sprayer, and you stick it in here and you spray it all on the lawn. Now, I don't have a problem using sprayers like this. The problem with the nematodes is sunlight will kill them very quickly. So for instance, let's say it's a sunny day and you spray this stuff on the lawn from your hose and sprayer like 10 in the morning. In June, these are the longest days of the year. A lot of those nematodes are going to be killed in the sunlight before the second day even comes. So to apply it properly, you got to be putting it down in the evening, ideally on like a day where maybe it's not very much sun. You got to water it in a lot. You're going to end up having to apply it a couple times, probably because you're going to have some nematode death. You know, it's an option, but to me, there's a lot of variables that I can't really control, and I don't really want to be out spraying on my lawn at, you know, after sundown. I mean, sundown around here is 9:30 p.m. So anyway, that is an option, but it's not the one that I'm going to be taking. Milky Spore is another product that is applied to the lawn. You can apply this to the lawn and it will give grubs that eat it what's called milky spore disease. The problem with that one, in terms of the reason why I'm not choosing to use it, is because it takes 2 to 3 to maybe 4 years for your lawn to build up enough milky spore, which is, I don't even know what it would be classified. I guess it's a fungus. I don't know. It's something that goes inside. It's a spore that goes inside the grub when it eats it, and it just slowly kills it. And it releases more spores into the lawn. But basically, it takes a long time for milky spore to really build up enough potency in a lawn to start killing off the grubs in a meaningful way. Not to mention the fact that it is particularly good and useful on the Japanese beetle, but not necessarily on the other species. Japanese beetle is not even really found very much on the West Coast, and it's kind of rare even west of the Mississippi. So considering the fact that I live here in Oregon, it's not an option for me. I'm not going to be using it. The third option, which is a little bit less common, it's certainly less known, is a soil bacteria that can be applied to the lawn. It's beneficial. It's a naturally occurring soil bacteria. You probably already have it in your lawn in very tiny quantities. It's called BT. Now, there's a scientific name for it. It is a soil bacteria called Bacillus thuringiensis. Thuringiensis. I don't know. I'm not a biologist. I'm not a science guy. It's BT. Now, BT is this bacteria that goes in the lawn, and there are different strains of bacteria of BT. Now, I'm not going to go into strains. There's current events right now in 2020, 2021. You can figure that one out on your own. But anyway, what this BT bacteria does, if you have the correct strain, is it's going to go down into the lawn. The larvae of the grubs are going to eat it, and the bacteria is going to act like a toxin inside the gut of the soil grubs, of these lawn grubs, and they will die. But here's the thing, it's only toxic to the grubs. In a gardening context, think rhubarb. So rhubarb is a vegetable. I mean, you can go off to the grocery store and buy rhubarb, but you're buying those red stalks, kind of like celery, except for it's red. You can eat the red stalks, but if you go to the garden and look at the rhubarb plant and you pluck off the green leaves, you can't eat those because they are poisonous or toxic to humans. And I think to other mammals as well. We have a couple rhubarb plants up there that the deer never eat. I don't know, maybe that's why. Point being is the plant itself is natural. There's nothing wrong with this plant. It's not damaging to the environment, but if you eat it, it will affect us negatively. So even though it looks delicious, like another green growing in the garden, you don't want to eat it. In the soil, the lawn grubs, when they find these this soil bacteria, this BT, they eat it, it releases a toxin in their system and they die. Nothing else is affected by it. Now, there are other strains which will affect other animals, or not animals, other lawn insects. But if we apply the correct strain of BT, then we're going to be targeting only the grubs that we care to die. We don't want the grubs. So if we apply it, it's going to work, and it's not going to affect any of the other soil biology whatsoever. It's also safe for humans. So when I go and I let my chickens out, when I let my baby run around and roll around in the grass, I'm pretty confident that there's no danger whatsoever. So I've got this new product, or at least it's new to me. This is called Grub Out from Lawn Box. There are no doubt other companies that make grub preventers with the BT ingredient, active ingredient. But this one is a granular, so I can just spread it on the lawn with my regular old spreader. This particular product has the strain SDS 502, which is the one that targets grubs specifically. So as we put this down, it's going to kill the grubs only. The problem with this, there's a problem with everything. The problem with this is that it's got a very short life in the lawn. So when you apply this to the lawn, it goes down in there. Let's call it after 2 weeks, roughly 10% of the product is still effective. So grubs, I don't know, they're not all going to come out on the same day. They're not going to emerge. So the way that we deal with that is I have to apply this on a light dose multiple times. Now, according to the bag, I can only put down, what, 6, almost 7 pounds of this product per 1,000 square feet in any given year. The low application rate of this allows me to apply 3 times to get to that maximum number, and I can do it every 7 days. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be applying the low rate of this product right here on my lawn every 10 days. I'm going to start on June 20th and then June 30th and then July 10th. And that's going to give me pretty decent coverage all the way to about July 20th. Now, at some point after July 20th, I'm probably going to be missing some of the late grub larvae. And that's okay, because every healthy lawn has grubs in it. You don't need to get rid of them all to have a healthy lawn. We just don't want to have too many of them. All right, now the purpose of this video is not to sell you on anything. However, I do believe that these 2 kinds of products are the best ones for residential lawns. So I'm going to have a link down in the description for where you could buy this, and probably this as well. But definitely down in the description, I have other articles over on the Turf Mechanic website about why we want to kill grubs in the first place. Also, there's another article there about late season grub control. When is it too late to apply grub control? What do you do when mid-July rolls around? Definitely go down to the description. Information like this is important, so if you've got time to read just a little bit, head down there and click on one of those links. Thank you very much for watching. I really do hope that this was helpful more than anything else. And my cat and I would love to see you in the next video as well. Thanks a lot.